right. Hi, welcome back. So, yeah, that was a lot in the last one, wasn't it? So I'm hoping that this one is going to be a lot shorter than the last one was because that was a whole thing. So to recap, last time I spoke about some of my dad's potential motivations about why he might be doing the things that he was doing as far as the text messages he was sending. I covered his continued obsession with my mom that none of us were really aware about until we read some about it. And I discussed misplaced pride and more like ranted about it. I ranted about overexposing kids on social media and again had some pretty strong opinions about misplaced pride and where pride should actually be placed in people when they do something that's really good, that sort of thing, and taking credit for things that you didn't necessarily have a hand in. So covered all of that stuff. So this go around I come back with more receipts, and I think this should be the last one, at least for this section. Okay, so we've made it to the bottom of at least that day of receipts. So we've now made it to the pure fiction section. This one is going to be pretty funny. So to start, I'm just going to sum up my personality and my character because again, in this, in reading through my text messages, essentially, he made me into fan fiction, right? He made me into a character in his fan fiction that he could kind of make into whatever he needed to propel the story forward. But with any good character that you're writing, they have very specific traits, right? That can kind of transcend through the story. That give a reader a sense of consistency. And so this was my personality. To start, I'm angry. I'm angry. I drink a lot. I'm angry. I'm bougie about brand names only sometimes, but I'm also down to earth somehow, ? And angry, and oh yeah, I'm super angry. So I just have to say, angry, yeah, that's a fair cop. At this stage in life, I'm frustrated and or tired at any given time. It's always one, but a lot of the time it's both, okay? So, but yeah, anger and guilt, I can admit that tend to be a default emotion of mine. If I'm sad about something, I usually also feel sorry about something. I feel sorry that I made somebody feel a certain way, or I feel sorry that somebody else is experiencing something. If my boyfriend always gets on me about this because something will happen to him unrelated to me, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened. And he's like, why are you apologizing? You had nothing to do with that. And I just feel like guilty and sorry on somebody else's behalf. So I tend to feel those emotions sometimes. But also, yeah, like anger, I tend to just get really frustrated. I wouldn't say angry. When we think of anger, we tend to think of the really scary big anger. It's more frustrated angry. I'm not I don't get sad. I don't get some people are oh, this must be really emotional and sad for you. I think I've talked about this before. I'm not a crier. I've never been a crier. My mom used to be something's wrong with her. She's broken because my mom is a big crier. She'd watch a commercial with a cute dog in it and she'd start crying. That was never me. I was never really much of a crier. I do cry. I mean, obviously, but just not all the time. I'm not a quick to cry kind of person usually. And so, yeah, so, instead when something that was super unfair would happen, I would just get really frustrated and I would get kind of angry about it. But yeah, so those tend to be my default emotions. So I guess that's a fair cop, but I also just think it's kind of funny just the way that he put some of those things. So anyway, I'm going to go through some of those text messages now. Here we go with the receipts. Yeah. So one of them, he says, he's talking to somebody about me and how I would respond to something. He said, look, honey, imagine a female. I don't know why he put that in air quotes as I am. Okay. Anyway, a female that gets upset faster and quicker. Your sis, Tay. Ta-da! And then she's like, then tell her, when does she want to meet me? I would love to meet you, okay? I've read enough of these text messages now, and I've read enough of, again, the fan fiction. I feel really sorry that, all of this happened and that he was kind of, breadcrumbing you along. I would love to meet you. I think that would be amazing. Another message where he's talking about dating, again, talking about his love life. He says, big problem. See, you guys are the first wave. Tay is the last wave. So like I'm like the last wave of terror. I think, and there was another text message where he refers to me as a tsunami. He refers to me as a tsunami. So that's pretty exciting. And then another one, he says that, oh yeah, here's another one. I really did want, okay, so this is another theme. He talks about this a lot, how much he wanted all daughters. He wanted a lot of daughters. He didn't want any sons. And he said, I really did want 5 girls. You want to know why? I wanted my girls to fight over whose house I'm going to for Christmas. No, my house. Wait, what? Pops is coming to my house. What? That's not fair. Then Debo steps in. Friday, anyone? Tay-Tay, that's me. You're all tripping. Pops is already here, girls. Someone pick moms up and fly my mama to Kentucky now, please. Because apparently I also live in Kentucky, which we will talk about that in a second also. And then he's talking about how he and I went out to breakfast one time. And he's like, are you and Tay like in cahoots today? For reals though, man. Tay said to the big booty waitress, I don't see what that has to do with anything. Excuse me, can you get my dad his juice and me a cake batter milkshake and stop flirting with my dad? I would be super down for a cake batter milkshake. That's actually pretty accurate. And then he said, Tay said, no tip for you, LOL. I would not tip a person just because they flirted with my father. Always tip your waiters and waitresses. Always. And then he's talking about me adopting my cousin. So my daughter said, Pop, I'll take her. So she stays with my daughter and my daughter's mother in Ontario. This little girl is wild. My daughter said, it's okay. I have a very big slipper. Not the slipper. And then he said, I was talking about my grandfather and trying to defend him. I said, so watch what you say. And then he said, she's vicious. This face. So vicious. Angry, tsunami, I have a big slipper, I like cake batter milkshakes, some of these are true. And then he said, then he's talking to another time, he's talking about he better get involved or get knocked out, saying I said that I was gonna knock someone out. And then he said, we're just talking, and he's talking about how protective he is of this person. And he's saying how she's really protective of him. And he says, what do you think my oldest would do to you? I'll wait. And she was like, do I get to meet her? Me. And he was like, no, they all get to meet her first. The other girls who he says he adopted as his daughters at work would literally turn into, and then he said, they would literally turn into my real daughter and F me up, LOL. Yeah, so again, apparently I'm like, scrappy. And then he talks about how he says that my mom said that when I get into my moods, I look and sound like his mom, which, yeah, was a common theme for his mom too. He always used to say how his mom was like, and I mean, I've heard stories about her, that she was something else and that she would, do some things that probably wouldn't be super okay nowadays, like throwing pots at her children and things like that. But they make funny anecdotes now, but yeah, no one would ever get away with that anymore. But yeah, so that's a common theme for her too, is that she would get really angry and she'd be punking people all the time. And so apparently that's me, because I like to fight. And then, okay, yeah, so that's some of the other stuff, some of the angry stuff that I thought was pretty interesting. And again, he really wanted he loved the idea of like women fighting over him. And so that becomes abundantly clear, obviously, with his love life. I mean, like, again, you don't like get into like multiple relationships with multiple women that work in the same place when you don't like conflict and you don't like the risk of them finding out, but also like the risk of them like fighting over you and like wanting you and knowing, like, so he kind of, he liked the drama. He liked the drama. He liked the tension. And then the other thing Another thing that I mentioned about my my personality that is in the character that he wrote for me, I like to drink apparently. So I just have to say this on the record. I do not drink like at all, okay? I've mentioned this I think a couple times before in the videos, but I'm not a drinker. I don't drink. Again, don't have positive associations with alcohol. I don't care if other people drink. My friends do, my family does. I go out with them and hang out with them. Don't care while they're drinking or whatever. But just for me personally, it's just a choice where I just don't want to put that in my space. And so he put a lot of text messages about me drinking to people. I guess Tay went out with some of her homies that lives out there in Florida. I've never been to Florida. I guess she was trying to keep up with me. And then he said she's freaking out right now. And her first game is tonight at 5 p.m. So, oh, she's freaking out. Like, she's freaking out. So that's my cousin was freaking out right now because her game was at 5. And she was like, Dad, Tay-Tay is drunk, passed out on the bed. And who's going to take me to the game? And then he said, my mom said, your drunk sister. My mom would never say that. My mom, she was like that mom who, like, she's on the mailing list of, like, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Like, you know that group? Like, she's a part of that group. Like, my mom would never. My mom would never. And then another message, he's talking about how he was barbecuing at our house, and then I asked if he wanted a beer, and he said of course, and I was drinking with him, and he was like, what? And I said, honey, what is you doing? She said, drinking a beer with my dad. He said, who bought the beer? She said, I did. Oh, my bad, cheers. And then he said, and she did coach, because someone said she got lit in Miami. And then he said, she did, coach. Like I said, Tay's always been a good girl, coach. Never turned up or nothing, but now she is, and as long as she's safe, and then I'm good, ... But let something happen. I'm calling me and all the Usos. We finna blow Miami up. I promise you, coach. You can say whatever you want about me. Kind, I guess. That's a good sentiment. You're gonna blow up a city if something happens to me. I would just call the police. But and there's also man, Tay-Tay wanna go get faded with her homies. Oh god, I hate reading these. I'm so sorry. Like, every time I replace the TH in a word with a double F, I just can feel the fact that it's just horrible. It's just bad, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I am sorry to you, but it has to be done. Yeah, and he sent this right after my master's graduation, mind you. So again, was not there, didn't know. He wasn't invited. We weren't talking. Then he says, like, 4 girls and 2 dudes. That's weird exposition, Robert. That's weird exposition. I feel like that's a bit unnecessary. And then he says, I'm finna do like Tommy. Hey, who's this guy? This guy right here. It appears me and your Tio. I don't know who this man is. Gotta go with y'all. Make sure y'all safe. Huh? And then the guy was like, you know? So, cool. Again, apparently, you know, cool. More people willing to fight for my honor, I suppose. Okay. And so, yeah, so those are some of those other ones. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to mention, too. So then, like, on top of that, then, like, so I have angry, right? We have angry, we have drunken, we have bougie sometimes. So talking about how Jordan gear for softball, which I never played, Jordan gear was really important to me, and I like to wear things that were kind of fancy and name brand, and I had to have these types of kicks and whatever else. So, you know, name brand and bougie. Gotta put that out there. I know. Like, I was always too poor to be bougie, okay? I was just, like, people, my friends know to this day, like, I am always, like, trying to be cheap, okay? Like, I still use, like, makeup that I've had since, like, childhood, which is probably super, like, expired by this point, but, like, for real, like, I just refuse to buy new product. Like, I'm just not gonna do it because I'm cheap. So, like, it's just funny because he points that out and acts like you know, I insisted he pay for all these expensive things when I was younger, when I super didn't, okay? And so, and I still don't to this day. I'm just not that girl. But then on the opposite side of that, so on one hand I'm bougie, but then on the other hand, depending on sometimes like the conversation or whatever, then I'm like, you know, super chill. Like I'm like him, where, you know, oh, like my cousin, who's my cousin's sister, she's the bougie one, and she's like, oh, I only eat pho noodles. I don't eat, you know, I don't eat like ramen or whatever. He's like, but my, you know, but Taylor and I, or Tay Tay and I, we drink, we eat things like the same way. Like we, you know, we go to Costco and we go to 7-Eleven and get hot dogs. Like that's who we are. We eat ramen. Like we're super chill and down to earth. And then he's like, Tay shops at the Big and Tall and the swap meet with I coach. So, you know, apparently I go to the Big and Tall. Guess how tall I am. Just guess. Guess how tall I am. 5'3.5". I'm 5'3.5". Okay, I don't even think they'd let me walk through the door. I'm pretty sure there's a height limit to ride in that store, and I am not allowed in there. And then he also said the swap meet. I think I've been to the swap meet maybe like once with him, or just in general. Like I think I've actually been to the swap meet maybe like 2 or 3 times in general, but like one time with him. I don't really go to the swap meet. Not like I shaded or anything. I just have never really been. And then he said that my cousin and my mom go to Macy's and JCPenney's. Yeah, so they go to Macy's and JCPenney's. Yeah, so it's just interesting because again, like it's like sometimes I'm bougie, but then sometimes I'm not, depending on what serves the plot points and what kind of pushes things forward. So I don't know. I guess I can be whatever. I can be who you want to be. BARBIE, Barbie girl. Okay. Anyway, so now I'm gonna talk about like I have like a whole category. There's a page that's like just miscellaneous things, because like so far I feel like I've done a pretty good job. I really tried hard to categorize these text messages so they could make some type of sense, and it would be easier to like put this in for like give you this information, because like what you have to understand is when I was reading through these, it was like the Wild West. I was just scrolling and going through them, and there was no rhyme or reason through any of these conversations. It was like so much more overwhelming in some ways because it was just so chaotic. There was absolutely no sense of order to any of these things. So I really tried hard. You can tell me if I didn't succeed. I would, you know, I'll take the criticism, but I tried really hard to give this some sort of a rhyme and reason, the messages and the order that they're in, give it a rhyme and a reason, so that way, you know, you would be able to follow the story a lot easier. But there are just some that were like really fun, like as like not fun, but like funny, that just didn't fit in a category. So I'm gonna go over those ones now. Okay, so to start with, like he brought some of my friends into this fan fiction, which is kind of funny. Like it reminds me of like if you're reading a fan fiction and you see cameos from like certain celebrities like make their way into it, and you're like, oh my god, they included them in the universe, how funny. And so like reading through it, like I just would randomly see my friends, like he'd be like, Tay Tay's flying to Arizona, coach, and then they would be like, I hope everything is okay, coach. Thank you. And then he'd be like, me too, coach, my friend's name. Just dropped her off at Ontario. I can't get a signal, or she can't. So he's acting all nervous, like I'm flying out and he can't get a hold of me. That never happened. No, that didn't happen. My friend she never dropped me off at the airport before ever. But it's just really funny because he would remember specific names of my friends, and just because he got lucky, I guess, in some ways, because I tend to make and keep friends. So like most of my friends I've known for at least like, I don't know, upwards of 5 years, but most of them are over 10 years. Like I have my newest friends are around like the 5-year mark. Okay. So like most of my friends I've known for like over 10 years, and my really close friends I've known since like elementary school. So this friend in particular, I've been like real close with her since we were both like 6 years old. So it's funny because he remembers her name, like, and there's just a couple of other friends that he would ask me about randomly, and I always gave him the runaround. Anytime he would ask me about them, he'd be like, oh, how's, you know, so and so. He'd remember their name, and I'd be like, oh, you know, they're doing okay. Like I wouldn't tell them any information. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, they're working here, they're doing this job, they have kids, they got married. No information. Give him no information, because I didn't want to give him anything to work with. And now I'm glad I didn't, because apparently, again, they get to make cameos into this universe, that this multiverse that I find myself in his fan fiction. So glad I didn't now, but I just think that that's really funny. And when I found this text message, I like text that friend. I was like, apparently you made it into. She was like, what? She was so shocked, and it was really funny. Anyway, okay, and then a lot of, like I mentioned before, a lot of saying that I was a part of sports. I was a part of softball, volleyball, basketball. Again, I played baseball for a little bit, but I super loved it. Basketball, I played for even shorter. Okay, I barely played basketball because vertically challenged, and same thing with volleyball. I'm not, no. And he's been telling the volleyball story since I was in high school, I want to say. He's been telling that story for a really long time. I don't know where he got it from. Never even had an interest in playing volleyball. I literally never even was like, oh, I'm going to take this. Never. Like, I never was interested in playing volleyball. And again, no shade to people who play volleyball. It's just not my bag. And yeah, so it's just really funny because, yeah, last time I played basketball, I was like real little. Last time I played I never played softball, but last time I played baseball, younger, you know, but he brings those up a lot. Like, I was a really like athletically inclined and sporty kid. Like, yeah, I had some athletic ability, but that was never really something I was interested in. It was never really anything I got super invested in time-wise. So I just think that's funny because he brings those things up a lot, and he talks about, you know, how I had like a specific lucky number, how I, you know, used to get specific gear and stuff like that. Like, we barely could have, that's probably why I didn't get into sports. We couldn't afford it. So it wasn't like I was like able to like, you know, make certain teams or get into leagues and stuff because you have to pay dues for those. And that was just not happening. So that's really funny actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, and so yeah, so he would bring those things up a lot. But yeah, no, that was not me. I never did that. Then oh yeah. So this one is really funny too. Okay, so there's another one where he was talking to this woman. I don't know her, and I've not talked to her yet directly, but she tried to friend request my mom on Facebook. Like, she found her on Facebook and was like, hey, she's on there, is it cool to request her? And the way I could, like, my dad didn't say much in this message, but the way that I could feel the panic coming off of him, because like, this lady thinks that we know about her. I've never heard her name before. I don't know who this is. My mom doesn't know who this is. And so, like, the fact that she tried to request my mom, like, oh, bless her. I wish she had. I really wish that she actually had, because we could have cleared up a lot of things. But yeah, my dad said, they're not really social media peoples, and I'd like to give them the heads up first if that's okay. He never did. And I'm sure he never planned on actually giving us the heads up. He was just going to try to give her the runaround and hope for the best. But I just think that that's hilarious because she was going to friend request my mom. So, you know, his character he was starting to have crossover events that he was not planning for. That's hilarious. Anyway, and then, oh yeah, there was another one where he was saying, I told Tay and my cousin and you, if you have a boy, use the name Sega in his name. And then she said, okay, I'll do that, don't even worry. And he said, I didn't want boys, I wanted girls. All I ask is that my daughters name one of their boys Sega. Tay said, say less, her first boy's name will be Sega. He did this emoji 3 times. I never said that. And then they laughed, and then he said, that's what I said, crazy girl. I said, oh, what about your husband's last name? She said, oh, he'll change it to mine's. No, I never said that, and I don't have a husband, and I never said that, and I never would expect my husband to be okay with that, and that's just not something I would do. I think the closest that I ever got to saying that was like, the only way I would change my last name, because I have no intention of changing my last name because I'm published in my name, but the only way I would plan on changing my last name is if their last name was Taylor. So then I would be Taylor. I don't know. nerd behavior, or like if their last name was Christmas or something really epic like that. Otherwise, I ain't changing. But that was, I never promised to name my kid the same name twice. I don't even know if you're allowed to do that. I'm not sure. I feel like there should be a rule against that or something. Anyway, and then, let's see, what's another one? Oh yeah, okay, so now enter the mysterious case of Kevin, okay? He's gonna come up a couple more times later on, once I get further down the line in the story, in the timeline here. He's gonna come up a few more times, but this is the introduction of Kevin, and I'm sitting there, I read, your sister decided to go to Kentucky to see Kevin, then she's going to Arizona to see her grandpa. Who's Kevin? Who is Kevin? I have no idea who Kevin is. I don't know who he is. I've never been to Kentucky. I never knew a man from, this is the introduction of Kevin, okay? And so it was just really funny because, like, yeah, and I think I mentioned this before. My boyfriend and I joked like a bunch of times back and forth because I read this message to him and he was just like, "You're cheating on me with a man named Kevin." And and because I always used to joke, and like when we first started dating, I told him, I was like, "Yeah, you probably have a wife and kids in Milwaukee." And so if he would like take too long to respond, I'd joke, be like, "Oh, it's okay. I know you're talking to your wife and kids in Milwaukee." And so now he's like, "You had a man named Kevin in Kentucky this whole time." Anyway, so I just thought that was funny. And he's gonna come up later. But I looked in his messages to make sure, because I'm like, I don't even have a friend named Kevin, so I don't know where he would have gotten that name from. And so I searched through our text messages, and the only time I had sent him the name Kevin was Kevin McAllister. Because I'm a Christmas nerd. But of course I did. It was during COVID, and so, like, you know, everyone was like leaving stuff on the porch, and so I was telling him, like, I'm living my best Kevin life, my best Kevin McAllister life. I'm gonna pop that up here. And so that was the only time I ever mentioned Kevin, but he's gonna come up later because he plays a much bigger role in my life than I realized that he did. This stranger man who I don't know who he is and have never met him before. Anyway, and so then so this is the last part, the last one that I'm gonna go over. So he sent this text message to someone talking about what he got me for my birthday, and he sent a picture, this picture, and he said, "I bought this for your sissy's 25th B-Day, AR-15, 75 shots." And then they were like, "LOL, I want to hang out with Tay." So you want to hang out with someone who has anger issues and gets drunk and owns like heavy artillery. And then he said, "I know, honey, soon." And then she said, "Soon." And then he said, "Tay don't play. She owns like 12 firearms, honey, and she's licensed in the state of California to carry a firearm. I don't like guns, honey. I'd rather choke or to tap you." Do you want to see, like, not even for my 25th birthday, because we weren't talking, so he didn't give me anything for my 25th birthday, but do you want to see what he got me for my, what was that, for my 26th birthday? Do you want to see? He got me crystals, not guns. He got me crystals, okay? Look in my room. Look at my room. I am a crystal girly. Look at these. I'm gonna pop some of these up on the screen. Look at what's in my purse. Look at what's in my room. Look at how I have decorated my room. Look what's right here on my desk. Crystals. I am a crystal girly, okay? He got me crystals for my birthday, not guns. I don't have any, fine with guns. We're going to leave all that stuff out of it because I don't care, but I'm not licensed, okay? I'm not licensed to carry. I've never owned a gun. Like, I know how to fire one, but I've never owned one before, okay? I've never felt like I needed to do that. That's just never really been my thing. It's not my bag, okay? No shade if it's yours, it's just not my bag, all right? But it just makes me laugh because I'm like, bro, you said, oh, you made me look so hard and so tough, and like, meanwhile, you're over here like, here's your crystals. Anyway, I find these ones way funnier to go through than the other ones. The other ones just made me like real angry, but these ones are like, they're pretty funny. Anyway, so now we go through we've gone through all of these text messages. You've seen all of the things that he said. I have broken down, I tried to break it down, what we were trying to accomplish, where we were trying to accomplish it, and maybe what some of his motivations may have been behind sending some of those text messages. So mind you, this is all I got to. Okay, the text messages, this is not everything that I discovered, and I also found so much more after my pop passed, just so much more, but all in good time, right? So I read all of this and I decided it's time to go. Okay, that's enough for Robert for today. I tried to rabbit hole, read everything that I could. I left later than I had planned to, because again, I had to make it to the airport. And his girlfriend decided to leave at the same time as me because we were both reading these together, and she was getting angry and frustrated too. And so my dad had been moved out of the ICU. He got moved into the CCU, which is like kind of like a lesser unit. Like it doesn't have as much, not oversight, that's not the right word, but it's like less critical, right? And so we were relieved. We were super relieved. We were like, okay. And I felt just an immense amount of relief because I'm like, okay, I'm leaving for this trip. He's officially out of the ICU. He's now moved to like a lower care unit. So, he's on the other side of this. He's made it on the other side of this. I felt much, much better about leaving. And I was also livid. I was also, I guess as he described me, he correctly described me here. I was really angry. I was really upset and just absolutely livid about what I had just read and just had, downloaded into my brain. I was really overwhelmed. I was thinking about all of the things that I was going to have to do with his health care, where he was going to go after this, what the physical therapy and the recovery time was going to look like. Like, I was super overwhelmed. And also, now that I've gone through all these text messages, I'm like, I'm going to have to address this with him. I'm going to have to actually go through this with him because I can't just let this lie. I can't just pretend like that didn't happen, and I didn't know how much help I was going to be getting from other people because he burned a lot of bridges at this point, right? He had a girlfriend when he went into the hospital, but I don't know about anymore, and I was also really exhausted. I was tired. I hadn't gotten any sleep that whole week because I was going there first thing in the morning and I was leaving really late at night, and so I really wasn't getting that much sleep either. I was super exhausted. So I kissed him goodbye. I went into his room after he'd been moved. I kissed him goodbye. He forgot that I was leaving, and I reminded him, yeah, I'm going to be gone for a while, and kissed him goodbye, told him I loved him, and his girlfriend and I both left at the same time. As I'm saying goodbye to her, because we walked down to the parking lot together and we're in the parking lot, as I'm saying goodbye to her, she's trying not to be upset. And I can tell she's trying not to be upset. She's sitting there, like, I didn't want to stay anymore because if I stayed anymore, I was worried that I was going to start taking it out on your dad. And she's like, and I don't want to do that. Like, she was trying not to be upset. She was trying to put on, I feel like, a brave face almost. But you could tell she felt betrayed. So did I. We both felt really betrayed by what we had just read and what he had done to us. And I told her, if you need anything, please reach out to me via text. And I'm happy to, help support you however I can, because I felt really bad. And, she told me she was going to reach out to my uncle and she was going to have him pick up my dad's wallet. And she was saying, I'm not so sure that I want to come back. And I definitely don't blame her. How could I blame her, And so at that point, she's, told me that she was making plans. She was going to make plans with my uncle to make sure that he had all my dad's stuff because she wasn't sure. She wasn't sure if she was going to be in or out, and she didn't want to be holding his stuff if she was in limbo like that. So yeah, so she was going to contact my uncle. And so I get in the car. I said, after saying goodbye to her, I get in the car. My mom had picked up my boyfriend, so that way he didn't have to park his car in front of our house while we were gone. And so my mom had picked up my boyfriend, and they were waiting for me at home because she was going to drop me off at the airport. So they were waiting for me at home, and they're like, "Where are you? You were supposed to be here a long time ago." And I'm telling them on speaker about some of the things that I found out, and they are shocked, because I'm sitting there like how I laid this out for you nice, and like I said, like I tried to put it in some sense of order so it would make sense to you. They didn't get that. They just got like raw, just me just being like, and then this, and then there was a guy named Kevin, and then he's talking about mom and how he's still hung up on her, and then there's this with my cousin, and like I'm just like verbal vomiting like everything that I had just learned and read over the past like several hours. And I get home, I packed some last minute things, and I try my best to put all of this as far from my mind as possible, because I want to, really want to be present for this. This is like a fun experience that we're about to go have, my boyfriend and I. But this was never far from my mind. I know what's going to be waiting for me when I get home. And while I'm gone, I talked with my family a few times. The days were mostly filled with fun. We were out doing stuff. We were, parasailing. We were going and he got, like dome checked by an ostrich at some point in time, which was really funny. Okay. We're just going and seeing things, and we're going and trying to experience as much as we can. We went kayaking, all sorts of stuff, which was just super cool. Can't ever replace those experiences. I'm really glad that we went. So the days were filled mostly with fun, but the evening, whenever the evening came, I usually had a little bit of a breakdown, because I was receiving text messages, people were asking me questions, and my boyfriend, we'd go to dinner, and after dinner he would just let me we'd sit in the car together, and I would just rant for like 30 minutes about whatever it was that was frustrating, because a lot of people were kind of giving me crap about leaving. They were like, how could you leave your father like this? Or they would be asking me just kind of questions, and it just made me feel, again, really guilty and uncomfortable. And so he was really great about it. I tried my best to keep it compartmentalized into a small portion of the day, so I wasn't like talking about it and thinking about it all the time, but it was never really far from my mind. I knew what was going to be waiting for me when I came home. So the next video, I will be talking about what was waiting for me when I got home. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Please remember to keep an open mind and be kind, because the truth will follow behind.